guys, it's Hot Mess Mama. It is, gosh, I don't even know what day it is. What day is the day? It is Tuesday. It's the 8th of May. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about teaching your kids how to tie shoes. So my son is 6 and he's, going to be finishing kindergarten and going into 1st grade. And he does not know how to tie his shoes. And I don't know how many kids that age are supposed to know how to tie their shoes, but I know that this is something that we need to graduate into and we need to start teaching him, especially because the Velcro shoes that he's been wearing, he's now growing out of, and they don't make them in the bigger sizes, not that we know of anyways. And so now we're kind of forced to have to teach him how to tie his shoes. And he gets really, really frustrated really quickly because it is really pretty complex. And I thought to myself, I don't even remember who or how I was taught to tie my shoes. It's just, I feel like, I don't remember ever going through that, but it sounds pretty excruciating to my child, and it's excruciating to my husband and I, because we seem to be losing our patience really quickly, and we need to be a little bit more calm about it, because I think that he really reads our body language, and he gets worked up when we get worked up, and we really just can't push. It's kind of like potty training, right? They say you're never going to send your kid off to college not being potty trained, but we're not going to send our kids off to college not knowing how to tie their shoes. So I know that it's something that will come with time, but I was just kind of curious as to what do you guys all do to kind of help your kid navigate and learn how to tie his shoes, or her shoes. Because the schools that my son goes to, they require that you wear gym shoes. Boys and girls have to wear gym shoes. And at some point, they're going to have to wear dress shoes, right? So I'm thinking, okay, how can I help make this a little easier on everybody? So there's a whole bunch of hacks and stuff that you can do in which to learn how to tie shoes, right? So but let me just back up by saying that one of the first tips and tricks that all the teachers and all the websites say to do is when you're teaching your kid how to tie their shoe, not to have them try to do it with their foot in the shoe, like have them do it outside the shoe, right? So because it's just easier for them, I guess. So this is how this is one of the hacks that I was taught. The double loop. Everybody knows the regular tie, right? Okay, this is gonna be I'm really challenged technologically, something like that. Okay, so how do I do this? Okay, that's not what I want. I don't want you to be watching that wire. That's not fun. Okay, that's not good. I'm not happy. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. This is really unprofessional. The wire's really bugging me. Hold on. Seriously, I feel like my house is such a cluster. Okay. Anyways, okay, so you have your shoe here, right? Okay, so we all know the traditional way where we just, we do the tie, right? And then we do the one loop and you swoop and you tie, right? There's that. But apparently there is hey, Caroline, there is a way to, I tried to teach my son this way, teaching him how to. Now, this one seems to be the hardest, but some kids just prefer this. So, I kind of said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take him, we're going to crisscross him, right? And then we're going to go the under, over, through the hole, and pull it tight, right? Okay? Sounds simple enough, right? But for some kids, tying this first initial knot is the hardest part. Then I kind of said, okay, make a tree. So he makes a tree with one loop, right? And then make the bunny go around the tree. He's going to poke his head through the hole, and then you're going to catch him and you're going to pull his ears tight, right? Okay, there's a similar one like this there's a Curious George printable that kind of has something Curious Georgie, which is around kind of the same lines here. But then there's the people that do the tie, and then they do the double. They teach your kids to do the double bunny ears, where you double bunny ears like this, and then I don't know if I can even do it. Then you pull them like this, right? Okay, but that's kind of hard for a kid, dexterily to be able to do 2 bunny loops and then hold the bunny loops. And then, that's kind of difficult. But maybe some kids prefer that, right? Then there was this genius hack where it's called it's kind of like the double loop, where you take the strings, little shoelaces, and you leave the little holes out here open, right? And you stick the laces in the hoops like this. This was one I thought my son would love because it sounds brilliant, right? So it kind of just makes these giant, big loops. And you just tie them. You just tie them in a knot twice. Ready? So you tie them once, you tie them twice, and you take the little things out of the holes, and you've got a tied shoe. How brilliant is that, right? So, but my son is having a hard time just, tying the knots. So this one was not very successful with him. But I think that with practice, maybe that might become his favorite. But then there's this, what it's called the push and tie. And I don't know if you guys have seen this one. I thought this one he might actually do better with. So you do the first tie, right? You do the cross it and pull it tight, right? And then you do a second knot, but not quite as tight, right? And kind of like leave a little bit of hole there. See, there's a little bit of a hole there, and then you take one side of the thing, one side of your shoelace, and you poke it through the hole, and then you take the other side of the shoelace and you poke it through the hole, and then you have to kind of teach them to pull the strings all the way out like this, and then they take the bunny ears and pull them tight. I think that I'm going to try to teach my son this method tonight because I thought this one was just a little bit easier to understand. It's called the push and tie. So I want to replay that one because that's a really good one, right? And then there is all sorts of stuff, like their products and stuff that you can get to help your kid with either learning how to tie their shoes or just like lace-free tying, right? So I'm going to go through a couple of those. First, there's what they call the Y ties. Have you seen this? I took a picture, so I apologize if this is like really horrible. There are these Y ties, and they're basically these like curly-Q, like elasticy laces that you lace through the shoe, and they don't even really tie the shoe in the end. They kind of just stick on out, but because they're curly-Q like that, they're limited. They won't come untied because they're kind of stuck in that position. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not selling this really well, but yes, these are called Y ties, and I don't know if any of you have ever used this, but apparently it can be successful with some parents, you know. And but that's not technically showing your kid how to tie a shoe. It's just like it's a shoeless, tying-less lace. Then there's these things called lock laces. Have you seen these? That they're basically these like little plastic tab thingies that you stick in the shoes that make your shoes basically slip on and lace free. Again, it's another method to be able to have your kids wear the lacing shoes but not actually have to lace their own shoe. Then there's this other thing. It's called, oh gosh, what's it called? It's called a Cool Nice. Have you seen these? Where they're like these little, can you see it? They're these little contraptions that go on your shoes that are like basically, and they go with elastic and they pull up and they pull down so that they can tighten or loosen their shoe to take them off. Right, again, another method for you to use the lace shoes but not actually have to lace them. Some of these methods that I've shown you, like the loopies and the lock laces and the cool nice, those ones are a lot of like runners and athletes and bikers and stuff use them because you can't afford to trip up or get your laces stuck in your bike wheel. So those are used by some athletes as well. But then there was this thing called the loopies, and I think it's a means in which to help your kids learn how to tie the shoe, not necessarily be like a lace replacement. I don't know if you can even read all this, but basically what it is you take step one and you have your kid tie the shoe in one knot, and then you stick the loops of the laces through these two little holes on this product. You have them kind of pull out the loops so they make big bunny ears. And then they just make a knot with the bunny ears down here, and they wear the shoes with the loopies in it. So again, I think it's just an aid to kind of help hold the loops when your kids are trying to learn. So I think this is a good product to teach your kids how to learn as opposed to replacing the laces altogether. So we talked about all of the different methods in which you can teach your kid how to tie their shoes. We talked about some alternatives to lacing shoes. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about some toys that are out there that are supposed to help you teach your kid how to tie their shoes. One was, I don't know, you guys have probably all seen it. It's this like wooden shoe. It's like a wooden shoe, and they put and your son can practice lacing on this wooden shoe because it's inflexible and such, and it's kind of easier to manipulate because it's a bigger shoe, right, with longer laces. Then there was this, I had this for my kid. It's a Melissa and Doug, one of those boards, right? And it has all sorts of stuff on there for them to manipulate, like how to button, how to zip, how to clip, how to snap, how to belt. But there's also one on there for how to shoe tie. Now this is also a puzzle, so you can take these pieces out and play around with them and such. But it makes it really hard to manipulate these things if these puzzle pieces keep falling out. So my husband, what he did was, Actually, I don't know if he glued it or he Velcroed it, but I think he glued the pieces in place. But I think you can also put Velcro behind these so that you actually use it as a puzzle. But when you try to use it as a puzzle, the pieces come out and it's hard for the kid to manipulate the things. But anyways, here you go. This is another great little toy, right? What was another one that they came up with? A jump rope. A jump rope. What they say is that because the jump rope is longer and it's wider, that you can actually teach your kid how to tie his shoes by kind of wrapping it under his legs and tying it like at his knees or her knees, because you know that might be easier for them to manage and to hold on to just because of its sheer size and its rigidity. I know that there's probably all sorts of rhymes and poems and songs and stuff that you could probably do to make it sound really fun and help the kid remember all the steps. I just don't know what they are. I literally just kind of said, we're gonna go under, over, through the hole, make a tree. Bunny runs around the tree, through the hole. Grab that bunny and pull him by the ears. That was mine, and that seemed to be okay with my son. But like, I'm sure there's like some really cool songs and stuff. So if you know them, send them my way, post it here in the thing, right? But they do say, like, don't stress your kid out by doing all of like, don't put all sorts of pressure on this. Don't try to limit the training time to no more than like 15 to 20 minutes or you're going to burn them out, right? And it's got to be fun. So if that means like playing some fun music or praising them or giving them a reward or something like that. I know I told my son, last night when I was trying to work with him, I was like, pull the bunny ears. He's like, I don't know how. I'm like, son, pull my ears. And so I went up to him and he started pulling my ears and he laughed and it broke the tension and helped bring him back to center and he was able to do it. So, even if it's something silly like that, I mean, like those things can help. Like I said, so other tips that have been put forth by like the teachers and the mommies that like have done this time and time again was one, like I said, don't tie the shoe on your foot. Make sure that when you do tie the shoe, that you tie it on something else, like just on the shoe itself or on like a wooden shoe, or I think that you can even make shoes out of like egg crates or milk cartons or stuff like that. They also suggest that you teach it backwards. Kids tend to be most adept, or like the easiest step in the shoe tying is for them to do the first knot, right? So they say, okay, moms, let the kids do the first knot, right? Because that will build up their confidence and get them ready. Then moms, you do the loop and you do the swoop, and then you have the kid pull the bunny ears tight. And then once he's kind of mastered the first knot and pulling the bunny ears tight, then you go back to revisiting that middle step where he or she makes the loop and makes the bunny run around the tree. It helps the kid kind of put all the steps in order, and it also helps the kid gain confidence at the front and the back end of this whole chore. And so that seemed to be something that they were also suggesting. They said 2-color laces. I never even knew that this existed. Apparently you can buy a lace that has 2 colors on it so that they can recognize the 2 different sides of the lace, or sides of the shoe. But like if you can't purchase the ones that are like 2-colored, you can tie 2-colored laces together and use it as one big lace so that the kids can know the difference between this side and this side, because it's complicated, right? Then they also say to use really long flat laces. So like try not to use the ones like I did here, which is like the round athletic ones, but like use the flat laces that are larger and longer. So the longer the better, because these kids are looping and swooping and stuff. So longer can be better for them, because the last thing you want them to do is to run out of string or lace, and then it just blows up the entire lacing exercise. So 2-color laces, flat long laces. They even suggested, like one website I saw said that you might want to start to just take these holes that are here, like the first holes right here that are blank, and instead of using shoelaces there, using pipe cleaners, because pipe cleaners are rigid and they hold their shape while kids are learning. But then another website said don't do pipe cleaners because they're too rigid and they hold their shape too tight. They actually suggested that you use like that floral ribbon that has the wire in it, like that fancy wired ribbon that you see all those wreaths made with and stuff, because it is a ribbon and it will tie, but it also has that light wire in it that can hold the loops, and that's supposed to be a better alternative to than the pipe cleaners. Then there's also like the hack with the clothespin. Like apparently like one of the hardest parts of the whole process is when the kids, make the bunny loop here. It's hard for them to do the swoop around because they can't hold this and do the swoop. So they suggested that you just use a little, for the beginning, that you give them a clothespin so that the clothespin will hold it when they do the swoop. So I thought that was kind of ingenious too. And everybody seems to have clothespins in their, either in their laundry room or in their craft bins. Another thing that they did say to do is not to use the top lace, not the top holes on the shoes, like to leave those empty for your kids' shoes, because when you actually lace them through those top holes, you're just taking up more of the length of the shoelace, which it makes it, again, like I said, harder for the kid to tie a shoe when the laces are too short. Like better for them to be too long than too short. So those were all like crazy things that I looked up and thought, gosh, man, there's all sorts of really great tricks that I can try. But you know what? That's a Google search. That's a Pinterest search. So I'm sure that you guys have some ideas or some tips or tricks or whatever. And I would love to hear about that. Oh, Blair, she learned how to tie her shoes after one try. Okay. Is this the ultimate trick where you stick the things in the holes? Because I did that one. We stick the tricks in the holes and they do the 2 knots. I tried to teach that with Enzo and he just wasn't getting it. He was a little bit better with the, do the tree and the bunny runs around the tree thing, right? So, but yeah, I would agree that, like, I thought, oh my gosh, that hack, that where you just stick the laces in the holes. I don't even know what that hack is called. And then you do the double knot. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Blair. Like, seriously, I thought he was going to get it like that, because I've seen all sorts of kids have great success with that. And so it was just not down with it. But maybe if the other thing too is that sometimes at the end of the day, after school and after practice and after homework, they're just spent, right? And maybe their little brains just can't handle it. So it might even just be something as trying it at a different time of day or in a different atmosphere. Or maybe mommy can be better teacher at it one day and maybe daddy can be at a different teacher another day, or maybe someone at school or even a babysitter, because sometimes kids can be more attentive to someone other than a parent. So I don't know. Every kid is going to learn differently and at a different pace. But now I realize that my Velcro shoes are going to go out the door, and I've got approximately 3 months of summer where my kid can wear Crocs and sandals before school starts next year. He's going to need to know how to tie his shoes. So I would welcome your comments, your help, your tips and tricks about what worked best for you, or like any one of these things or products that works great for you, and any one of these things that I talked about today. If there's any one of them that you thought was a total Pinterest success or a total Pinterest fail, or great product or horrible product, shoot it out there, put it out there, so that all the other moms can benefit from what you've learned. And when I close up here, I will put some links to some of the stuff that I talked about in the comments of the post. But otherwise, Blair and Caroline and Katie, thank you so much for joining, and very glad to have you joining me. And I'm a little bit late today. I was having some technical difficulties, but certainly thanks for joining. We'll do another live this week, but thanks for joining. Help teach my kid how to tie his shoes. Well, I'm teaching the other one to potty train. Mom on, guys. Have a great, what day is it today? Tuesday. Great Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. Bye.